my foundation students can learn in doing it. So rather than sort of saying, well, we need a control group to make sure, to cancel out the fact that these are people meeting for the first time, I mean, that takes it into a different kind of theoretical, that's a different theoretical approach, isn't it? Ours is really working from inside the data, focusing on the process here, the process of listening, reading, transcribing, and talking.
Thanks for the talk, firstly. And when I read the title, it said like preparing UK teachers to teach English as an international language. And I got a question because I also did study in a language school for a year, and I interviewed my students, Chinese students, all of them, and I was wondering, they may do not, I mean, at least not all of them want to learn English as an international language. And like the advertisement, they said in China, it said like go to a native speaker country, learn English in a natural environment. And when I interview them, to ask them to say, why do you study in the UK? And many of them, I can say from my data, most of them would like to say, I want to speak British English. They all say English international, and some make quite clear to say, I want to have British accent. That is why I come to the UK to learn English. Otherwise, I can go anywhere else. Why I don't choose American? Because I want to learn British English. So maybe like from your perspective, understanding it's quite good for these learners to gain more power or like to become legitimate English user. I quite agree with that, and I think it's very important. But also, they may also have the need, they want to learn British English.
Yeah, and do you want to say, sorry to say about that, but do you want to say something about that too? No? Yes? There's so much to say, and that's such an interesting question. Oh my god, yeah.
I think we discussed that for 3 hours on the train coming down, or 6 hours.
Do you want to say something? Yeah, I hear my students say that all the time. They come to England, and that's generally their reason. Although we've got a colleague in our group who came with her son from China. Son's 13 and is now going to a local school in York. And his mum is really upset because now he has a Yorkshire accent. She doesn't speak the Queen's English, but a Yorkshire accent. So we've had lots of interesting conversations about this. But I think Indu's story at the beginning was meant to set the scene for where we're coming from on this, which is, what can we say to students like that in all honesty? They will never sound like the Queen, is one thing, because it's too late, they're too old. I don't sound like the Queen, I've got a northeastern accent, and you're okay with that. And even if Indu sounded like the Queen, and she sounds more like the Queen than I do, still working in the shop, the woman says, "Oh, your English is so good, how come?" And still with the Polish student story that Indu said, that was my student, she said it's 50p. And before the customer had even heard, he said, "Oh, it doesn't matter, I'll ask somebody else." So I think what I would say to those students is, well, let's talk about all of those issues, because they're all really interesting and difficult, challenging, and sometimes sad, upsetting issues.
Yes, I'd like to say that as I have attended your presentation, and as you mentioned in your presentation, the economic level of the students' family is very important for Chinese students to go abroad. So the students that we interviewed here are all who can support it by their family to study abroad or by others. So how about the students in China? How about the students in China? If they know the English as an international language, it will be better for them to learn English?
I think when I learn English in China, for example, like I don't matter. I don't mind like I learn British English or American English, as I know they are sort of like called the standard English. But when I came to the UK, because I have been studied in different universities for nearly 5 years, and then I remember on my first assignment in York, I did it in York University, And then my supervisor pointed out all the use of English words, which is not British English. And he said, I think you'd better use British English.
Yeah, I had the same experience.
And then we're in the UK.
Yes.
And then he gave me a very short suggestion. And he said, very simple, go to your word, set the English as British English, and it will be practiced.
We have a very different perspective from your supervisor. I mean, maybe your supervisor was talking about spelling. If he's talking about setting the spelling, we're not interested in that. It doesn't seem important to us. We don't believe in standard English, because within our perfectly functioning research team, we've all got different varieties of English, and that's no problem. We think, as Canterbury and Rajagopal do, that English as an international is not a product. It's not something you can write down in a dictionary. There's never going to be a dictionary of standard English as an international language, because it's an attitude and it's a process. There are skills involved.
But I think if the student is going to live in the UK for several years, and it's more easy to sound. Of course, I know I will never sound exactly like the British people or also my participants, but it will be. I mean, from a practical issue, it will be easier for them to live in this country, because this country is actually not so multicultural as we really want it to.
Well, that's one option, is to try. You can try. I can try, and I can try to sound like the Queen. If I'm in a situation where I think people will accept me more, maybe it's a class issue in Britain, isn't it? And so if I'm a situation with people who are higher class than me, I can try and sound like them. You can try, or you can fight. You can say, I'm not going to try. This is how I am. It's perfectly clear. Millions of people around the world speak like me, and this is how I speak. If you don't like it, go and buy your coffee somewhere else.
I'm in agreement with what you're saying. Do you think? I think this problem stems from the commercialisation of English as a language, and therefore either Britain or America are out there selling British English or selling American English, and therefore the students that come to me don't really know why they're studying English. They've just been told, you should study British English, this is the best, or you should study American English, this is the best. And actually, personally, I think we need to break down these barriers and say, it shouldn't really be even about studying English. It should be about intercultural relationships and communication, whether it's through English or through another language. That's not the point. And if our students or we could understand what we should be doing, maybe I'm talking morality here slightly, that we should be trying to look at international communication rather than communicating with English internationally.
I think you've just summed up what this whole conference is about. Yeah,